Good evening, everyone. Hello, I'm your host, Dorothy. Welcome to Egg Donation Friends webinar number 13. Today's topic is reliable cryoshipping for IVF, how to choose an IVF courier. Today's presenter is Peter, Head of Logistics Department at First Egg Bank. His presentation will last about 25-30 minutes, then the Q&A session will follow. If you want to ask a question, you can type them in the chat section while the presenter is speaking. Peter will answer all your questions after the presentation. The webinar is being recorded and you will be able to view the recording on our website. We will also publish a transcript with all the questions and answers. I hope everybody can hear me well. Can you hear me? Can you let me know in the chat? Yes, people can hear us. Okay, Peter, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Dorothy.
It's very nice to have you here again, and I think we can start if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, everyone who is behind the screen and joined to our webinar. My name is Peter, and it is an honor for me to represent today the logistics department of First Egg Bank, the biggest European bank of vertified oocytes and sperm samples.
Hello, Peter. Have we lost you? I'm afraid I cannot hear anything. Hello, Peter.
Hi, hello again.
Oh, yes. Okay. I think we lost you at some point, so we didn't hear anything. I mean, I didn't hear anything, so I guess our attendees were not able to hear you. Okay, so I think we have to start again. Well, it happens. It's a live event, right? So can you please start again?
Yes, sure. So as I told before, the aim of this webinar is to provide you a quality information about process of transportation, meet you with some times of it, tell you how actually we do it, and answer to all of your questions, of course. And I hope all of you will find this information useful for you. Let's start. So the task of transportation preserved samples of biological materials occupies nowadays the key position in a cycle of IVF services. The particularity of IVF sector often leads clinics and medical centers into finding new options for solving the problem of infertility, and the patient themselves into changing the geography of their treatment. And the reason for this is that different laws and regulation in different countries, restrictions for specific treatment programs such as surrogacy, absence of availability of egg donation treatment in some countries, others. Consequently, the transportation of cryopreserved samples has nowadays become as relevant as never before. And the main option for actually the main option for the patient who would like to get a surrogacy treatment in some country where it's allowed, and it's very popular for that the way to get this treatment for the patient who cannot pregnant. And going to the history of our company, we started to perform cryo transportation from 2007, Until 2017, number of shipments has grown to over 200 per year. And our first shipment was delivered to Israel, where two wonderful babies were born from delivered embryos. Since that time, we delivered frozen biological materials, embryos, and sperm samples, as well as verified oocytes to more than 25 countries in the world, and over 1,000 babies has been born, and it's growing each month. But actually, the service of cryoshipping, it's not only an option of physical transportation of material from one point to another, as a lot of people used to think. Indeed, it's a complex solution to the issue of IVF samples cryoshipping, which includes the communication with customers, preparation, the requested documents, some process of adjustments, and logistic operation. A lot of people are included to that working process, and it's the only way to make each delivery safe and successful. If we will talk about methods of cryo-transportation, there are two main shipping methods. The first one is on-road transport in liquid nitrogen, and the second one is air transport under presence of supervisor. The on-road transport is a quick way of transporting samples on short and middle distances up to 1,500 kilometers. This kind of transport can be prevent complications which safety checks in airports and enables better scheduling of the sample transport. The transportation container can be completely filled with liquid nitrogen, which provides an absolutely stable temperature of minus 196 degrees. This can be used in the sample vitrification technique, which requires extremely fast freezing in liquid nitrogen. As samples preserved like this are on a minimum volume, their exposure to temperature above minus 170 degrees represents a very high risk, even for the short period of time. And if we will talk about air transport, we would like to talk that one of the highest risks with reproductive cells is their exposure to radiation or unauthorized handling them, opening the container. To minimize those risks, our supervisor accompanies your samples throughout the whole time, both on road and air transportation, and ensure that no such situation occurs. The container is never handed over to any third party, and our appointment supervisor accompanies your conscription at all times. All of our supervisors are trained to assess the transport conditions and prevent any damage to the sample. The transporting the cells by air, it is impossible to keep them directly in liquid nitrogen for the strict aviation safety rules. For this purpose, we use transportation double-wall cryo containers made by the landing manufacturer as is Taylor Barton or Embraer. Both comply with the requirements of international AFT regulation. They contain absorbent material which is filled with liquid nitrogen in advance timing so that the nitrogen can be absorbed, and all unabsorbed liquid nitrogen must be removed. The container is not transported in the luggage compartment, of course, but directly on the board under condition of supervisor. If we talk about experience of our companies, so we have 10 years of cryoshipping experience. As I told you before, we started to do transportation uh, from 207, and since that time we transported biological material, embryos, oocytes, as well as sperm samples to more than 25 countries in the world. We also have experience to transport biological material to post-USSR countries such as Ukraine and Russia. A lot of you may know that these two countries are very popular for surrogacy treatment. Actually, because this treatment is allowed in Ukraine as well as in Russia. Our team provide you support for 24/7, and we have multitask team. They speak English, Spanish, French, German, and also Russian speaking. In our job, we adhere some very strict rules. First one is that we always provide on-board escort with a full individually accompanied delivery from a pickup point to the required destination. The transportation also is carried out in a special container due to the sensitives. The transportation is performed with great care, of course. We always provide the temperature for the survival of material not less than minus 196 degrees. And we always prepare all necessary documents for the transporting material not to be X-rayed during the checking the airport. So who are the customers? First of all, I would like to talk that our services is available for private customers such as patients as well as for the clinics. So for that reason, our main customers are individual patient, IVF clinics, surrogacy agencies, donor agencies, and IVF laboratories all over the world. So I can go to our next slide. Actually, we can talk about what we transport. So what is the main value of all of our efforts? The material which is available for the transportation of our services doesn't matter on road transportation or air transportation. We can transport vitrified oocytes, semen samples, frozen embryos, samples of biopsies, blood samples, and also stem cells. On this slide, we can see how very often the inquiry from our patient looks like. But as I told you before, our services, it's also support 24/7. So we will respond to any requests, even without quite information in it. Our coordinators will help you to complete your order as well as provide a quality communication with clinics, which will be included to that process. So any questions from you will not be lost. You can be sure about it. The main parts of our webinar is information about legislative regulation, the process of cryoshipping. I received a lot of queries from the patients to talk about this part of webinar. Remind again what documents could be required for the process of transportation from different countries. So at first, I would like to say that the main document which describes the process of shipping inside the EU and outside EU is European Union Tissue and Cells Directives. It's a set out of establish a harmonized approach to the regulation of tissues and cells across Europe. These directives set a benchmark for the standards that must be met when carrying out any activity involving tissues and cells for human application, actually patient treatment. And it also concerns transportation of biological material inside EU and outside EU. Very often in my job, I heard from the patient or customers that it is forbidden to transport IVF samples from EU to non-EU and vice versa. Of course, it's not true, and I agree that it's a little bit harder, but actually these directives give an answer that in case you provide all requested documents which are mentioned in her content, no one can forbid you to transport your material. And if we are talking about country-specific clause regarding cryoshipping, we mean that each country can require some additional permits. But usually it's almost similar with the content of EU tissue directive. And the other directives which describe the process of transportation of IVF samples are FDA and FGFA regulation. The first one has strict regulation about import of biological material to USA, and the second one, FGFA, regulates a movement of each biological material to United Kingdom and outside United Kingdom. And of course, we cannot forget about documents regarding export and import processes, which a lot of countries have. But actually, the samples of IVF do not have any commercial value. But even in spite of that fact, there are some countries which still require for the declaration of the customs, where you can fill this information and mention that this material is going to be used for not commercial value and only for the treatment. For example, such countries are Ukraine and Russia. What kind of other documents can be required? The responsibility to the temperature of IVF samples demands to use a special equipment for their transportation, as well as the way of the shipment. And for example, if we are talking about transportation on the board of airplane, the tank with sample has to be taken as a hand luggage, of course, and with constant care of the courier. And unfortunately, it is the only way to be sure that nothing bad will happen with your material. And of course, the container with material looks very untypical as a hand baggage that passengers usually take with them on the board of the plane. So the best way to avoid some misunderstanding is to contact with the air company and get a permit to take it on board. Actually, in our next slide, we will talk about the resolution, which helps air company to provide a permission for transportation such kind of luggage. And as I have mentioned before, in some cases, the customs declaration could be required with identification code of the material which cross the border. The main requirement can be availability of certificated container for transportation, because all those directives in my previous slide can be used only for the container which complies with the regulations. Because certificated container has a proven that he has been tested in laboratory and is valid for the safety transportation at all. So what about international regulation? As I told you about the solution which helps the air company to provide a permission to transport the shipper with IVF samples on the board of the plane. which calls IATA. The International Air Transport Association supports aviation with global standards for airline safety, security, efficiency, and sustainability. Together, if ISIGAO regulations, they allow to take insulated packaging refrigerated liquid container, fully absorbed in porous material, only non-dangerous goods. But it's forbidden to take container with liquid nitrogen, in spite as it is allowed for on-road transportation. Our main points of cryoshipping is the safety of transportation. And as I told you before, it is very important to have an opportunity to control all steps of the transportation from door to door. That's why we perform all of our shipments with constant care of our human courier, who is specially educated and transported from door to door. We also use the special marks like keep upright, do not irradiate, fragile, and it helps everyone to immediately notice that this luggage is very value and important. For additional safety, all of our shippers for transportations are equipped with temperature logger, with software, so everyone and anytime can check the temperature inside in real time, as well as get graphic illustration of the temperature during the whole trip. You know how important is the temperature for frozen biological material and how sensitive are cells into changes of it. On this slide, you can see how looks the equipment for the transportation. Here you can see the container for transportation. You can see that it has a double wall, where is the place it's absorbing system, which absorb all liquid nitrogen. And below you can see data loggers for transportation. And as I told you, it shows the temperature in real time, and also it has a database which can provide the graphic illustration for the temperature from the beginning of transportation to the final destination. Okay. I will try to scroll it down. Okay. Physical process of transportation, it includes the preparation of necessary equipment, charging of container, also testing loggers, and also logistic preparation for the transportation, such as booking tickets for the courier, contacting with both the clinics from clinic of the storage of material, as well as for the clinic of the final destination, where the patient would like to get treatment next, and also communication with our patient. So how looks the delivery stages? It doesn't matter who it is a clinic or it is a patient. First of all, you have to do, you will need to fill the delivery form. You can find it on our website. On the right side, it's www.firsttechbank.com. When we will receive your order, we will be able to prepare you the price for transportation, because each transportation has her own price, because it always depends from the cost of the tickets and from the date when we can pick up the samples and transfer it to the final point of destination. The next stage, our employee will confirm your order, will coordinate with both of the labs regarding the dates, will confirm the date when we can pick up the samples, and also the date when we can deliver it to the lab of the clinic of the next storage. And after that, we will be able to inform all authorities which will be included to the process of transportation, such as airport security, in some cases the customs and other authorities. And as I told you, we always perform delivery from door to door. This slide you can see all countries where we deliver it, successfully deliver it, frozen embryos as well as oocytes and semen samples. Some very sweet feedbacks from our clients. And thank you so much. I would like to tell you that all registered participants will get a discount in the amount of 150 euros for each transportation, and you will be able to use it till the end of June. Thank you so much for your attention, and in case you will have some additional questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Yes, thank you very much for the lovely presentation. And I think we can start with the questions. Okay. Just a moment. I'm trying to pull up the first question. Okay. The first question is from Christine. What are the air transport containers called, and which companies supply them?
For our transportation, we use two types of cryo containers. As I mentioned in one of my slides of my presentation, one of them is Tyler Wharton, the X100. The company is Taylor Wharton who produced these containers, and the second one is MVE, MVE as in English. So this both types complies with the other regulations, and it's one of them is produced by German company, and the second one by a company in USA.
Okay, thank you. Second question. How long will these containers hold this stable temperature for?
Both of containers is valid for safety storage of material during 10 days.
Okay, 10 days. Fantastic. Thank you. That's a long time. Good. Next question.
Enough for safety transportation.
Perfect. I would need to ship oocytes from Hawaii to Spain. This is a long travel time, and I wonder if this can be accomplished and how much it would approximately cost.
Actually, if the transportation from Hawaii takes about 3 days, but you have to remember that to be able to transport biological material outside Hawaii, you have to receive a permission from the local Ministry of Health. The price can be different. As I told you, it depends from the date when we can pick up the samples and deliver it to the next clinical data storage. You can contact with us anytime by email address, and we will be able to calculate the price from the dates which interest you.
Thank you. Next question. Do you include Italy as a delivery destination?
Yes, of course. We deliver the oocytes as well as embryos and sperm samples from Italy.
Fantastic. Thank you. Next question. Where is your company registered?
our company registered in Belgium water law.
Yes, if we have any attendees from Belgium, you can even visit First Bank in person. Yes, is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Okay, do we have any more questions, dear attendees? You can type them in the chat section. And yes, at the moment we answered all of the questions. We can wait a moment. Yes, there are a few people typing. I know that you have answered many questions during your previous webinar with us that was held this year, and I hope we get more questions this time as well.
Yes.
Okay, we're waiting for the questions. Maybe in the meantime, I have a question. Do you have a list of countries where you cannot send IVF samples, or it is not allowed by law or other legislation?
Yes, well, you can find it on our website. There are almost all Muslim countries because they actually strictly forbid to obtain some other materials from other countries.
Okay, can you give us some examples of?
Such as Iraq, as well as Turkey, and now it is Nepal, also India.
Okay,
There are a lot
I
of
see.
them.
Okay, so this means that you cannot send samples either from India or to India or Iraq, right?
You
Or
cannot send
Turkey.
it until you will not get a permission from the Ministry of Health of India.
Okay. 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 At the moment, we don't have any more questions.
So until we wait for some question, I would like to also represent our next place where we can meet and talk about any of our customers, because this week we are also going to take a part in an exhibition in Copenhagen, where First Bank as well as me will talk about egg donation as well as IVF transportation. So any customers from Scandinavia or our countries which are neither to Denmark can come and talk with us.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you are in Copenhagen or you are in Copenhagen, you can visit the conference and meet Peter. When exactly is that, Peter?
It starts from 26th of May until 27th of May.
Okay, so
From
this
Saturday
weekend. Yeah.
until Sunday, yeah.
Okay.
The number of the stand is one.
Maybe one more question from myself. If a patient decides to book a shipping service, how fast can you organize the shipment? Does it depend on location or any other factors?
It depends, first of all, from the locations and also from the legislation of the country. In case we will need to wait for the permission from the Ministry of Health, it will take some longer, and in case it doesn't require, we will transport very fast. As I told, the transportation takes 1 or 2 days to deliver it from one country to another. But the process of agreeing to agree everything with both of the clinic can take about 1-2 weeks.
1-2 weeks. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, it seems there are no more questions. Okay, let's remind everyone that all participants can get a discount from First Egg Bank. This is 150 euros off on your cryo shipment to any direction. Is that right? To any direction?
Yes.
Yes.
For any direction.
Correct. Okay, cool. Okay, dear participants, if you have any more questions, you can type them now, or you can email me at dorothy@ivfmedia.org, or you can contact Peter directly. Don't forget to mention that you took part in the webinar, and this is important. And okay, Peter, would you like to add anything?
I would like to say again, thank you to all of participants. I would like to add that we will be very glad to meet you on our next step, as is exhibition in Copenhagen.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I would like to add that we are running another webinar in 2 weeks' time. The details will be posted soon on our website, and I can only tell you that the topic will be the difference between the number of eggs guaranteed and the number of embryos guaranteed. If you are interested in the guarantees of embryos and eggs provided by clinics, join us in our next webinar. The details will be up on our website shortly. Okay, Peter, thank you very much for your presentation. Dear attendees, thank you for being with us, and we hope that you will join us during our next webinar. And everyone have a good evening, and hope to see you in our next event. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you too, Dorothy.
Okay.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.